Happy Friday, everyone. Alfred Cromwell here, and I've got really good news for you. Well, two pieces of good news because the first one is you can. I've had a lot of people question me about being able to send letters, and they know I like to receive letters. And anything you want to send over to me, so you can mail me if you want to write me a letter or send me something for math or whatever it is. You can write me now. Alfred Cromwell here, City Tutoring, 4925 Boonsboro Road, number 130. Number 130. So 4925 Boonsboro Road, number 130 in Lynchburg, Virginia. The zip code is 24503. I will link that just in case, I'm going to put the mailing address down below as well so that you have it. And I'll try to, I'll put in the video as well. And I am just very, very happy today because I bring to you a classic masterpiece that was written, a book that one of my fans sent me a couple of weeks ago. And I am immensely grateful for the gesture because I had been looking for the book for a very long time. And unfortunately, I was unable to obtain a copy of the book until it was sent to me. And I am eternally grateful for it. It is one of the best. I was familiar with the book because I had used it in high school as well. Although I had used it as a pre-calculus textbook by choice, not because my school had it, but because I wanted to actually be, as I said, once I started to understand the mathematics and to get deeper into it, I really wanted to be very rigorous about it. So it's a pre-calculus textbook. It was meant, once again, for high school students. And I'm going to show you right now which one it is. Here we are. Modern Introductory Analysis by Dolciani, Italian speakers. This is the best version, although it has some printing mistakes that have been already corrected. And so make sure if you ever use this book that you're aware of the mistakes. And I will, if I have time, I will tell you what the printing mistakes are in the description. But this is Modern Introductory Analysis. I believe there was a copy from 1962. This one is from 1964. And it is for the Modern Mathematics series. And it is just a wonderful, wonderful masterpiece of everything. I will show you, I'm going to share with you on the board. For example, I love the way that the authors present functions, how they talk about functions. They present functions as a Cartesian, as a subset of Cartesian products. Now, be honest with me, those of you who are at the school level right now, how many of your teachers do that? How many of your schools actually present things in such a rigorous way? So I will share with you the example that they have in this chapter. But I love every chapter here. Can you imagine? The table of contents here is unbelievably good. First of all, the author starts with the chapter 1 is statements and sets in mathematics. So they start, of course, with sets. We have to start with sets. You cannot have a serious math class unless you understand set theory. So they go through the combining statements and sets, operations on sets and all that. They even talk about George Boole, and hence the term of Boolean algebra they describe. Chapter 2, unbelievably good. Ordered fields, field properties, axioms for fields, proving theorems, indirect proof. And then chapter 3 talks about mathematical induction. Absolutely wonderful, because that is one of the best things a textbook can have, is to discuss mathematical induction. And a lot of the modern, the rubbish that they're peddling our students in our schools today, particularly in the public schools, they do not discuss mathematical inductions. And I've had students, you know who you are. You've told me in the comments yourselves that you don't cover that it's a shame. So if you are serious about your mathematical studies and you're fed up with the watered down, the craziness in our schools, the propaganda, this is a solid option. Modern Introductory Analysis. Now you could probably, I'm sure there's a copy online archive or something that you can get for free. It's not easy to find this particular version. It's not really easy to find. I will cherish this. I will lock this up, and I will keep it as one of my treasured possessions. I have a story to tell you all, because when I was in college, I had an excellent collection, an excellent library of books. And unfortunately, when I was a junior in college, I started working in a campus office. And I was, at the time I was being careless, and I had been moving from dorm to dorm, and then I finally managed to find an apartment in New York. And so I left the box of a lot of the math books I had. And one of the math books that I was missing was this one. So thank you. You know who you are for sending me this. But so anyway, for those of you who are not familiar with the context of Dolciani and what that is, why it's such a good book, you have to understand the context in which the book was written. So the first version, I believe, was written in 1962, and it was part of the Modern Mathematics series, and it's a cornerstone. There was a transition in the 1960s toward what they called modern mathematics in secondary education. And it's really one of the best eras when it comes to, it was really an era of rigor, elegance, and really ambition in mathematical pedagogy. So as a pure mathematician, I deeply admire the structure and the depth of the text. And I'm thrilled. I'm just really thrilled to have a copy of it. But you need to understand, those of you who are of a certain age, and even some of you older people watching, the historical context, right? So in the 1950s and the 1960s, there was the landscape of mathematics education was undergoing a transformation. We were in a situation called the post-Sputnik. There was a post-Sputnik push for stronger math education in the United States. So the era gave rise to what was called the new math movement, not to be confused with the Common Core, that is also sometimes referred to as the new math, but from today's point of view. So Dolciani was a distinguished mathematician, and she was an educator from New York. She taught at Hunter College. She was also provost of Hunter College, and she stood at the forefront of this movement. She crafted textbooks that introduced students to mathematical thinking that was really previously reserved for college curricula. So this book, and all her books really, but this particular book, is an embodiment of this philosophy. It challenges students. You have to engage with mathematics as a coherent and logical system, rather than just as a collection of disjointed procedures that we have today. All many of our students are learning today are just procedures, algorithms, which computers can do. But they're not really understanding the whys. They're not really being taught the rigorous aspect of math. And that's where city tutoring comes in, because we do take an approach. That's why we do use these kind of textbooks. So one hallmark of this book is precisely the rigor. Dolciani doesn't shy away from requiring students you have to grapple with abstraction and proof. Too bad. The book, like I said, it begins with foundational topics, like you talk about sets, relations, functions, and those are concepts. They're not just introductory, but they're essential. How do you plan to get into higher math if you don't have these foundations? And now I know a lot of students, they say to me, well, I don't care. I'm not going to study mathematics. Well, guess what? You're still going to have to take, if you go to at least a serious college, you have to take some kind of math, whether it be mathematical applications, whether it be introductory calculus, college algebra. So this will make it a lot easier for you. So this focus that I have I keep emphasizing precision, formalism. That's a defining feature of this text. And as I told you earlier, if you take the example of the chapter on functions, it's not merely a rule of correspondence. Usually students today are taught input, output, usually, which is fine. But she also goes into the subset of Cartesian products that satisfy a certain condition. And that might be challenging, yes, for high school students, but it cultivates a mindset that appreciates the interconnectedness of the mathematical ideas. Another striking feature is the integration of algebra and geometry. So I like that the text weaves these disciplines together. They sort of showcase their independence, but emphasizing that they have shared logical foundations. So for students, this approach can be eye-opening, but it's also demanding, and it requires a level of abstract reasoning that it's been rare in the past. You can almost see the timeline of the watering down of our math. If you look at any textbooks, even the Dolciani textbooks that were published later on starting in the late 1980s, you start to see a decline in quality. You start to see less of an emphasis on sets. Because I have had people who show me the Dolciani text from 1988. She had died in 1985, and but her legacy lives on because great legacies never die. I always tell people from the Christian point of view, from an individual point of view also, but because before I was a Christian, I believed the same thing. Your body might die, but your spirit, if you have a great ideas never die. So, and math is forever. Math is eternal. So the what about the how it's organized? So I believe the book is impeccably organized. So it goes from basic concepts to more advanced topics like they even talk about analytic geometry, trigonometry, and even introductory calculus. So each chapter builds on the last, as it should be. So it reinforces the earlier concepts while introducing new ones. And the exercises are noteworthy, they're very meticulous, and they are designed to challenge you. And some problems you'll find are straightforward and they reinforce basic skills, but others are deliberately open ended or proof based. So it pushes you to think critically and creatively as a student. And I had someone recently tell me, "Oh, a lot of the information in that book is outdated." What rubbish? What utter rubbish? People who think that way. They said that the problem that they had with the book was that they teach things like, for example, in the days before the days of widespread use of calculators, that they teach you how to use tables. So what? What's wrong with learning something new? I don't understand the aversion that some people, this was an adult person. It was not a child. It was not a student. There is an allergy in this country to even at the adult level for people learning things, and we're not going to take that approach at City Tutoring. I don't care if it's outdated. If it's a good book, it's a good book. Actually, I would argue the older the better. I even hold to that philosophy on a personal level. I rarely, almost everything I have is a lot of the things are before the 20th century, even because they were better built. People had different standards of what quality meant back in the day. So this focus on skill building and exploration is one reason why this book is so good. And if you're a true mathematician, it's one of the revered books among people who are mathematical educators. And of course, any good book will always have critics. So many argue, I'm also familiar with the argument that says that, oh, it's too formal, it's too abstract, it's too advanced. If you're a student in high school and you're watching this video, you should be angry that so many adults today underestimate your intelligence. They really want to treat you as if though you were incapable of learning. They treat you as if though you were stupid. And that's why so many of our students, not that I justify misbehaving in school, but that's why so many of our young people have lost interest when they're in a classroom. If the message that is being sent out by educators, I'm not saying all educators, by the way, I'm saying administrators more specifically, if the message is that nothing matters, what kind of an attitude are we fostering amongst our young people? We often hear about, and it is a serious problem. We hear about student boredom in schools. We hear about disrespect in schools, disobedience. But a lot of it, I've been teaching for more than 20 years, all ages, primarily college, but I've also taught teenagers, if you can call them that, because I believe people are whatever age. I just call them people. But if you want to classify them as teenagers, and I've never had a problem. I've never had any so-called teen disrespect me in any way, because I think most people, when they realize you have a passion for something and they realize that you are honest, and when you treat people with the respect that you would want to be treated, I think most people will respond well to that. You're always going to get, of course, though, troublemakers. That's nothing new. We had troublemakers in the 19th century, the 18th century. That's not new. But I think what has changed is that a lot of students are not getting the education that they deserve. And intuitively, they sort of know that, and then they lash out in the wrong way, of course. That doesn't justify disrespecting anyone. And of course, there has also been a breakdown of authority in our schools since in the past 40, 50 years, primarily because we've had incompetent fools for politicians who believe in political ideology over actual learning and instruction. But anyway, for those who, if you persevere in life, the rewards are immense. I would not be anywhere near who I am today and where I am today were it not for delayed gratification. This is something that we should drill into our society. We have lost the idea of delayed gratification. Our founding fathers understood that in America very well. And before them, our Puritan forefathers understood it even more. But anyway, Dolciani's work, we have a generation. I mean, you've left comments before in my other book, in my other presentation of her books, which I'll link down below as well. It's been one of the most popular videos on this channel. A lot of you have been of a generation of students who were exceptionally well prepared for college level math thanks to these books. And even today, the book, I think, is, it's a treasure for educators and for anyone who values anything rigorous to math education. I like the emphasis. I like the logic, the structure, the clarity, the lack of clutter that it continues to inspire. So this is more than just a textbook. It's really a testament to the power of math as a discipline of beauty and rigor, of course, but beauty. Beauty comes from the rigor. So it's going to challenge you, if you're interested in, to approach math with seriousness and respect for its inherent structure. And for those of us, if you're in math already, whether you'd be an educator, a student, or just an enthusiast, this book serves as both a resource and a reminder what it means. It really makes you engage with the subject. So I encourage you to explore it, whether you're revisiting it, if you're an educator, have a look at it, or encounter it for the first time. Let yourself be challenged. Let it inspire you. And it's going to remind you of the timeless elegance of mathematics. Thank you for being with me today. And let me just, before you go, let me just share with you, this is just unbelievably good. Let me just share with you an example. This is from page 215 of the book, where the author Dolciani begins to talk about functions. And first, they describe functions as you're normally familiar with. It says any set of ordered pairs is called a relation. The set of all first coordinates of the ordered pairs is the domain of the relation. And the set of all second coordinates is its range. Thus, the data obtained, and then, they have a table above about a biology student. So they just kind of give you an example of their relations. But then it says, I quote, the relation G consists of ordered pairs of real numbers and is therefore a subset of R times R, Cartesian product. And of course, the R is is written in the real number symbol, by the way. Consequently, it says in the coordinate plane, you can regard G as the set of 10 points. And then, she gives out a graph, but let me just share with you an example of just how wonderful this is. So this is from page 216, modern, I put the title here. So again, modern introductory analysis, example 1. So it says, if F is, and F, by the way, is written as a with set notation, so it doesn't look exactly like it looks kind of like a scripted F. It says if F is a relation whose graph is shown in the adjacent figure, which I'm drawing here, give a roster for F, the domain of F, and the range of F. And so basically, the solution to this, first of all, the roster. The roster, for those of you who are not familiar with set theory, the roster is the list when you actually list out the elements in your set. So in this case, you have negative 2 comma 0, 0 comma 0, 2 comma 0, 0 comma 3, 0 comma negative 3. I put them in red, the coordinates. And then in part B, it says, what is the domain then? Well, the domain is the x point, right? Negative 2, 0, and 2. And notice that even though there's more than one 0, you only use it once, because in set theory, you cannot use an element in a set more than once. Also, when you're dealing with sets, make sure you put them in braces. You enclose any set in braces. And the range would be your y's, of course, without repeating. So in this case, negative 3, comma, 0, comma, 3. So this is a great exercise. It also says, right after the example, it says some relations can be specified or defined by a rule enabling you to determine the member or members of the range paired with each element of the domain. For example, the solution set over R times R, and the R, of course, is the real number symbol, of an open sentence such as x minus y equals 4 is a relation L that you can specify as follows. And then it would say something. So it says x minus y equals 4. And then says you can specify that to be, they have an L equals. So x and y are elements of the set of, and then it says R times R, and x minus y equals 4. And then it says another way to denote L is L equals. So this is just wonderful, the way I see it. So, and then they have a shaded box in the bottom, on the bottom of page 216. It says, whenever an open sentence specifies a relation whose domain and range are not explicitly stated, we agree to include in the domain and range those real numbers and only those real numbers for which the open sentence is true. All right, and then they give some examples of that. Right? For example, the square root of 1 minus x squared. Because each value of y is to be a real number, each value of 1 minus x squared has to be a non-negative number, since x squared is equal to the absolute value of x to the square. Right? So this is very important stuff that they don't specify in a lot of math textbooks today. They don't even cover it. And if they do, if it is in a math textbook, sometimes the instructors won't even cover it because it's not part of the curriculum. They're not required to in many of our schools. So I hope that this video was useful. If it was, please continue to support us and subscribe. I am immensely grateful to everyone. And as I said, please, now you can send me correspondence. So you can mail me here in Lynchburg. So again, 4925 Boonsboro, Boonsboro Road, Boonsboro Road, number 130, Lynchburg, Virginia, and the zip code is 24503. Thank you all and have a wonderful Friday.